The Outermost House, A Year of Life on the Great Beach of Cape Cod by Henry Beston. Chapter 3, The Headlong Wave, Section 1. This morning, I'm going to try my hand at something that I do not recall ever having encountered, either in a periodical or in a book, namely, a chapter on the waves, the forms, and the sounds of ocean near a beach. Friends are forever asking me about the surf on the great beach, and if I am not sometimes troubled or haunted by its sound. To this I reply that I have grown unconscious of the roar, and though it sounds all day long in my waking ears and all night long in my sleeping ones, my ears seldom send to the long tumult to the mind. I hear the roar the instant I wake in the morning and return to consciousness. I listen to it a while consciously, and then accept and forget it. I hear it during the day only when I stop again to listen, or when some change in the nature of the sound breaks through my acceptance of it to my curiosity. They say here that great waves reach this coast in threes. 3 great waves, then an indeterminate run of lesser rhythms, then 3 great waves again. On Celtic coasts, it is the 7th wave that is seen coming like a king out of the grey, cold sea. The Cape tradition, however, is no half-real, half-mystical fancy, but the truth itself. Great waves do indeed approach this beach by threes. Again and again have I watched 3 giants roll in one after the other out of the Atlantic, cross the outer bar, break, form again, and follow each other in to fulfillment and destruction on this solitary beach. Coast Guard crews are all aware of this triple rhythm and take advantage of the lull that follows the last wave to launch their boats. It is true that there are single giants as well. I have been roused by them in the night, waked by their tremendous and unexpected crash. I have sometimes heard the last of the heavy overspill, sometimes only the loud, withdrawing roar. After the roar came a briefest pause, and after the pause, the return of ocean to the night's long cadences. Such solitary titans, flinging their green tongues down upon a quiet world, shake beach and dune. Late one September night, as I sat reading, the very father of all waves must have flung himself down before the house, for the quiet of the night was suddenly overturned by a gigantic, tumbling crash and an earthquake rumbling. The beach trembled beneath the avalanche, the dune shook, and my house so shook in its dune that the flame of a lamp quivered and pictures jarred on the wall. The 3 great elemental sounds in nature are the sound of rain, the sound of wind in a primeval wood, and the sound of outer ocean on a beach. I have heard them all, and of the 3 elemental voices, that of ocean is the most awesome, beautiful, and varied. For it is a mistake to talk of the monotone of ocean or of the monotonous nature of its sound. The sea has many voices. Listen to the surf, really lend it your ears, and you will hear in it a world of sounds. Hollow boomings and heavy roarings, great watery tumblings and tramplings, long hissing seas, sharp rifle-shot reports, splashes, whispers, and grinding undertone of stones, and sometimes vocal sounds that might be the half-heard talk of people in the sea. And not only is the great sound varied in the manner of its making, it is also constantly changing its tempo, its pitch, its accent, and its rhythm, being now loud and thundering, now almost placid, now furious, now grave and solemn slow, now a simple measure, now a rhythm monstrous with a sense of purpose and elemental will. Every mood of the wind, every change in the day's weather, every phase of the tide, all these have subtle sea musics all their own. Surf of the ebb, for instance, is one music, surf of the flood another, the change in the two musics being most clearly marked during the first hour of a rising tide. With the renewal of the tidal energy, the sound of the surf grows louder. The fury of battle returns to it as it turns again on the land, and beat and sound change with the renewal of the war. Sound of surf in these autumnal dunes, the continuousness of it, sound of endless charging, endless incoming and gathering, endless fulfillment and dissolution, endless fecundity and endless death. I have been trying to study out the mechanics of that mighty resonance. The dominant note is the great spilling crash made by each arriving wave. It may be hollow and booming. It may be heavy and churning. It may be a tumbling roar. The second fundamental sound is the wild seething cataract roar of the wave's dissolution and the rush of its foaming waters up the beach. This second sound, diminuendo. The third fundamental sound is the endless dissolving hiss of the inmost slides of foam. The first two sounds reach the ear as a unisonance, the booming impact of the tons of water and the wild roar of the uprush blending, and this mingled sound dissolves into the foam bubble hissing of the third. Above the tumult, like birds, fly wisps of watery noise, splashes and counter-splashes, whispers, seethings, slaps, and chucklings. An overtune sound of other breakers mingled with a general rumbling fills earth and sea and air. Here do I pause to warn my reader that although I have recounted the history of a breaker, an ideal breaker, the surf process must be understood as mingled and continuous. Waves hurrying after waves, interrupting waves, washing back on waves, overwhelming waves. Moreover, I have described the sound of a high surf in fair weather. A storm surf is mechanically the same thing, but it grinds, and this same long, sepulchral grinding, sound of utter terror to all mariners, is a development of the second fundamental sound. It is the cry of the breaker water roaring its way ashore and dragging at the sand. A strange underbody of sound when heard through the high, wild screaming of a gale. Breaking waves that have to run up a steep tilt of the beach are often followed by a dragging, grinding sound, the note of the baffled water running downhill again to the sea. It is loudest when the tide is low and breakers are rolling beach stones up and down a slope of the lower beach. I am perhaps most conscious of the sound of surf just after I have gone to bed. Even here, I read myself to drowsiness, and reading, I hear the cadenced trampling roar filling all the dark. So close is the forecastle to the ocean's edge that the rhythm of sound I hear oftenest in fair weather is not so much a general tumult as an endless arrival, overspill, and dissolution of separate great seas. Through the dark, mathematical square of the screened half window, I listen to the rushes and the bursts, the tremblings and the long intermingled thunderings, never wearying of the sonorous and universal sound. Away from the beach, the various sounds of the surf melt into one great thundering symphonic roar. Autumnal nights in East Ham village are full of this ocean sound. The summer people have gone. The village rests and prepares for winter. Lamps shine from kitchen windows and from across the moors, the great levels of the marsh, and the bulwark of the dunes resounds the long wintry roaring of the sea. Listen to it a while, and it will seem but one remote and formidable sound. Listen still longer, and you will discern in it a symphony of breaker thunderings, an endless, distant, elemental cannonade. There is beauty in it, an ancient terror. I heard it last as I walked through the village on a starry October night. There was no wind. The leafless trees were still. All the village was abed, and the whole somber world was awesome with the sound.